Welcome to Scrollin', episode 89. I'm Ket. Joining me, as always, Davius Starjumper. What's going on, man?
Not much.
Have you been singing the Song of Fire, Davius? Not the Song of Ice and Fire.
Sure.
Different song.
Different one. I actually forgot that the Song of Fire was going on completely until you reminded me just a couple days ago. And I went, oh yeah, we have a new DLC.
We
got a new DLC zone.
Firesong DLC is now live on PC. It's been live for a week. Consoles are going to get it next week. No real surprises in the patch notes or anything like that. All the stuff that we talked about during PTS and all that went live just as it was. So nothing new there. Very buggy launch. Probably the buggiest launch we've had in a couple of years, I would say. I don't know, just a lot of weird stuff, a lot of crashes. Davius, I think you experienced some crashes.
Yep.
Actually, we were queued up for a BG and you crashed one time, like as soon as the queue popped.
It's devastating.
Yeah, that was frustrating. Some weird stuff with siege engines in Cyrodiil and the DK standard ultimate, and just kind of some frame rate stuff. A lot of bugs. I think most of it has been worked out by now, but it was just kind of weird for such a seemingly like simple release, like not a lot going on with this release. Surprisingly very buggy.
Yeah.
Worse than Markarth, and Grizzly asks, man, I guess I don't really remember. That one doesn't stand out in my mind as a really buggy release. I'm sure it was. It's just, that was a long time ago.
There's just a lot of weird, unique, unexpected bugs. I feel like this patch that was like, where did this come from?
Yeah, well, especially like no like crazy new systems or anything are being introduced. It's like a very kind of ho-hum sort of release. So it's just surprising that so many things were affected. But like I said, most of it's been worked out by now. I think I haven't really experienced any crashes. I was getting some performance issues, but most of that seems to be cleared up, and I think most of it has been taken care of. So have you been to the new zone at all yet?
I have been there for about 15 seconds. You were talking about some sunflowers, and so I had to verify.
Oh, yes, I remember that. Yeah.
And I saw them.
Found
them.
So not enough time to really have any real impressions yet.
No,
or anything
I didn't
like
even
that.
look at I haven't even looked at the town yet.
I actually like the town. Vastir, it's actually a pretty cool town. I'll tell you my early impressions. I've started, I would estimate I'm maybe like, I don't know, a sixth through the main story.
So you even started some of the quests?
Yeah. I've done a couple of side quests. I'm in the middle of one right now, and I've started on the main quest. And I've explored a pretty good portion of the map. Now, early on, when you first port into the zone and you're right around that main city, Vastir, I was kind of exploring around that general vicinity, and it really is just kind of High Isle Junior right there. It's like, there's more sunflowers and a lot of those white rocks, and my first impression was like, okay, it's just smaller High Isle. I get it. But I kind of got to exploring and started following some of these quests, and it takes you to other parts of the map. I was actually really pleasantly surprised at how that island has some very diverse biomes. Like when you get up to the northeast part of the map, it has like a really, really dense jungle sort of area, like more like the coolest jungle area in the whole game. This is like the most convincing. Like I feel like I'm in this deep, dark, dense jungle with a thick overhead canopy. There's like lava streams flowing through the jungle, and it's like kind of dark in there, but then there's these bright lava streams. Looks really cool. There's like waterfalls. They use verticality in some really cool ways. There's like like fallen trees, like hollowed out tree trunks and stuff that form these natural bridges to get around. Really, really neat zone. I've actually been enjoying the exploration way more than I did High Isle.
Okay.
And it's it's like half the size.
Yeah, you're selling me on it a little bit. I have to check it out.
And that's just like the northeast area. If you go to the northwest area, it's a totally different kind of thing. It's like this giant like canyon sort of gorge area. It's huge. It's like this giant crater in the ground, and there's all this sort of weird supernatural stuff happening there. I haven't really explored that one very deeply yet, but it's also really interesting looking.
Okay.
So I'm way more into this zone than I was the main High Isle zone. I've really been captivated by it. A lot of really cool interiors too. Like when you go inside some of these buildings, a lot of that stuff looks really, really neat. So I think you're going to enjoy the exploration aspect at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I will eventually do it. I'm actually pretty big on completing the quest storylines. I usually make sure to complete those. I don't know. The High Isle one was probably, I thought it was okay. It just didn't, it didn't keep me on the edge of my seat, and so that's probably why I haven't started up on that quest yet.
I was kind of not super hyped about starting these quests because, like, I wasn't really hyped about High Isle. Like, I ended that quest and I was like, okay, that was kind of fun, I guess, but it's over and no big deal. So I was just kind of expecting more of the same here, but I've actually been enjoying it quite a bit more, and I think it's just because of that setting and that atmosphere and the environment. It just seems so much better in this release than it did in High Isle. And it got me to thinking, like, in this game, that really is what it takes to have fun quests, right? Like, when you do a quest, none of the actual things that you're doing are really very fun. You're just talking to an NPC or you're, looting some stuff from some place. It's usually not anything that's particularly challenging or interesting. It's really just the setting and the atmosphere and where you're at and that kind of stuff that makes it interesting. And it seems like they've done a lot better job at making that the focus. I really feel like, especially like I said, a lot of these interiors are exploring some kind of caverns and stuff like that. They did a really good job of setting the tone of those places.
That's exciting. Good news.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been very pleasantly surprised with that aspect of things. There's some old favorite NPCs that show up. I won't give away any spoilers, but you'll see a couple of familiar faces. There's a couple of new kind of, featured NPCs that they've introduced that I'm sure we'll see return in the future as well. So those are pretty cool. One of the side quests I did actually just today is very like M for mature kind of like for I mean, I know this game is rated M for mature, but man, it was I was surprised by just the theme of this particular quest line. Very out there. Yeah, mother making a funny face in the chat.
Everyone's eyebrows went up.
It took me by surprise, but it's very, I mean, it's still Elder Scrolls. It doesn't get like too out there, but it's very risque. The topic that's going on and the puzzle you're trying to solve. Pretty entertaining though. I enjoyed it. So yeah, just like the role play and the exploration and the questing and all of that, I really feel like I'm getting my like subscription money's worth just with that alone. I was kind of like not super hyped about this expansion or not an expansion DLC. We're not really getting anything interesting. I'm not really super hyped about any of the armor sets or anything. So I was just kind of like, I don't care about this DLC, but it's grabbing me, man. It's really grabbing me.
Okay, that's a good sign.
Yep.
I feel like I'm easier to grab than you, so that bodes well for me.
Okay, so you remember that set we talked about on the last episode? We were trying to pronounce it Bastion of Droife, Draoife. Mm-hmm. So a couple of the NPCs have corrected my pronunciation on that. It is Drafa is how it's pronounced. So that set is called Bastion of Drafa.
It wouldn't be scrolling if we got it right the first time on pronunciation. That's just
I mean, what chance did we have with that?
That's
spelling?
true,
There's like
but it's just
6 vowels in a row there.
You know what? We've got a style, all right? We're going to say it how we say it, and then in the next episode, we'll get it right.
This new target markers system, Davius, you had asked on the last episode if you're able to see the target markers through objects, like through line of sight. You actually can. I was guessing, I hadn't tried it at that time, but I was guessing that you probably could not, but I have tried that. You can do that. Unfortunately, the target markers do not seem to work in Battlegrounds, which is really the one place I would use them.
That's the devastating part.
Yeah. I don't know if it's intentional or not. It honestly seems pretty buggy, the target markers system, so it could be that that's just not intentional and they'll fix it maybe. I don't know. Because they did say it's going to be usable in PvP.
I was just about to say, I personally was able to get it working in PvP. Although
unintentionally.
I was the only one in the map, and I'm pretty sure our enemies could see it as well, so it did not work out for the better.
Yeah, well, I think you already had it on you before you poured it in, right? And then you poured it in and you had it.
It
And then
actually was, we were playing and you had put a symbol over me because we were talking about it and testing it. And then I logged off for the night. When I logged back in, the symbol you had put on me was stuck to me and I couldn't take it off. And then it stuck with me when our BGQ popped. Went in there, it was still on me. And then it was like changing symbols depending on who.
yeah, like different people. Yeah, different people would see different symbols. There's definitely. Yeah, Mother was with us. She's saying pink moon.
I was
in
pink
the
moon
chat.
for Mother. That's what
I saw the yellow star.
Mhm.
I think you said you were seeing the triangle or something like
a little
that.
orange triangle thing. Not really sure what it is, but
So obviously some wrinkles to iron out on that system. Hopefully they will, and hopefully they'll make them work in Battlegrounds because it's really the only place I would really use them. And that's kind of the one new feature of this release that I was kind of looking forward to. Like I'm actually going to use this thing. So that would be nice.
yeah.
I have not yet had a chance to try out any of the new sets. I don't think there's any really that I'm really itching to get my hands on. What about you, Davius? Is there any that you're interested in?
I'm kind of in the same boat. I have some things that I definitely are on my list that I want to farm, and none of these new sets have kind of cracked that list. There's definitely some other things I'd like to farm before.
Stormweaver's Cavort I'm interested in, but so far I guess not enough to try and go get it because I haven't done that yet.
Here's the thing about Stormweaver's Cavort for me is, and we talked a little bit about this, but really like the idea. It's a really, could make a really fun character, but is it going to make enough of a difference to make up for counting as your mythic item? Like, is it an actual...
to make up for not using Gaze of Sithis.
Yeah, is it an actual buff? Like, if you just swap your resources, I don't see how it's a potential buff. I don't see how it's like you're getting more. It seems like you're just trading places, but you're having to sacrifice your mythic piece for it. There's no extra buff along with it. And I could be getting wrong. I haven't looked at it in a minute, so maybe there's some other stats it gives you. I guess it gives you the sustain. That's the other part to it, but I don't know.
You could come out ahead in terms of sustain, and I could see maybe something you could exploit that somehow, but even then I don't know if it's really going to be worth it.
I just don't know if the stat, like the actual buff or stats, like is it going to give you an actual benefit, or is it just changing the style of play? And I don't know. Mythic pieces are a big deal.
That same uncertainty to me is why I haven't started farming it yet, because it's like, man, it's going to take a lot of time to get a hold of, and then am I even going to want to use it? I don't know. Yeah. But I will eventually, just because it's such a weird thing. I just got to have it in the collection anyway. Something that I'm really surprised I have not seen the Fawn's Lark cladding thing at all with the charm status. I don't think I've seen it a single time. Yeah, I've like forgotten all about that thing.
I also haven't seen the barrier thing. I thought we'd see that with some of the tanky players right now, but haven't seen that either.
Uncle Sam says about the Stormweaver's Cavort, it's only really swapping roll dodge and break free to Magicka because block can already be a stat choice from picking Sword and Board or Ice Staff.
Mm-hmm.
Or even just Ice Staff and not using that one passive, right? And that would work too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems like it might not really be worth it. I was expecting that Fawn's Lark cladding. I mean, that thing is so weird and niche and cool. I was just expecting to see a lot of that. But I guess since it's just regular CC, basically, they made it to where it functions just like a normal stun, essentially. So it's like kind of hard to justify dedicating a mythic to that, really. I could see that, like I'm not interested in it for that reason.
There's a Davius build out there in the future that's going to involve that and the Vadishran Sword and Board that pulls everybody into the group. And
Okay.
It's just gonna be all sorts of just wackiness.
Just troll build.
Yeah, just pull everybody into the middle of the map, and then I'll randomly walk through them, I guess, to charm them. I had to wait to see nobody else using it though. If it became popular, I'm out. But nobody using it now.
Oh, you're in the clear. You're in the clear.
Oh, it's more up my alley.
Yeah, you'll be probably literally the only one. I don't think I've seen it a single time. Really surprising. I don't really see anyone in like guild chats or anywhere talking about really any of the new sets. I don't think like there's really nothing that's that's really grabbing people. I think this collection of sets that came out this go around were a lot of decent sets, but not really any like extremely like really really good sets to replace the heavy hitters that we're already using right now.
Yeah, no game changers in this set. Probably the I can't remember the name of it, the Theurge or blanking on the name, but there's one
the moth,
yes,
Phoenix
the
moth
one.
Theurge. Yeah,
thank you. Yes, that's the one that I probably think will probably be the most used of the sets.
Yeah, that one seems really good, especially for a support. But yeah, no one's like making a big stink about any of these new sets. I think a lot of them will just kind of be shuffled into the mix of all the sets in the game, and some of them will be perfectly great sets for the right build here and there. But yeah, like you said, none of them are game changers. So anyway, I guess that's all the PvE stuff we have to talk about. Of course, like always, we've mostly been doing PvP, a lot of battlegrounds. The BG meta is just kind of more of the same from the last time that we talked. Now that this patch has gone live, all the things that were true last patch are just kind of more true now, right?
More so true.
They're just more. There's even more wardens, and there's even more crowd control, and everyone's even more tanky. Is basically how it is.
I was thinking about this, and I think we can come out and say this. I don't think it's a secret. We're not super crazy about the state of battlegrounds right now. It's not ideal.
Yeah, not our favorite.
But I was thinking about this, and I really think it's just it's like a huge imbalance, because right now in a BG, there's you're either going to get in a match where you've got a lot of execute builds on good teams, so you're going to have teams with 15, 20 kills, or you're going to get in a match where the highest kill count is 5. And it really just seems like there's no in between right now. It's either a massive blowout because you got some execute builds and a whole bunch of people playing objectives, or you have a whole bunch of people ready to deathmatch, but they're all built for this tanky meta, and so nobody can die. And it just I was really thinking about this over the past week, and that's the part that I've really struggled with, is that it is on such either end of the extreme, and there's no middle ground, which usually that middle ground is where the really fun, really competitive battleground matches happened. And there's no really middle ground right now. It's either you're in a match where nobody dies, or you're in a match where these execute builds just kill people like they're cutting down weeds.
It's hard to say for sure, but this might be the worst meta ever. Maybe pretty close to it. Just as far as like, man, it's impossible to kill anybody. You're never not stuck to the ground. You're seeing like a whole bunch of this one kind of build all the time, everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just a super duper frustrating situation, and it's something that anybody with eyes could see coming from 10 miles away. Like we all, as soon as we saw the PTS patch notes, everyone said, well, this is what this meta is going to be, and it's going to be terrible. And we just moved right forward with it. It's just something that we're doing. So it's frustrating, but
yeah, I would say for me that the part that potentially makes it the worst meta is that if it was just the current state of BGs, like I know what I just said, but I think that there's potential for good matches, but the current state combined with the kind of mess that is the objectives in BGs right now, and kind of the forced objectives, I think the combination of those two things is what puts it into the worst meta conversation for me.
Yes, if it wasn't for the random only queue, that really does exacerbate the problem big time.
It really
because
does.
Like that puts the incentive there to make your builds that way in the first place, right? Like it doesn't matter if those build options are there. If we're playing deathmatch, it doesn't matter if you can make your build that tanky. Why would you want to?
Yeah, absolutely.
But now you have all the incentive in the world to make that your build, and the 1 in 20 times you get a deathmatch, just hold block and hopefully your teammates will get the kills for you. You'll be fine.
What really stood out to me is that we did a match the other day, and we got lucky and we got a deathmatch, and It was a really competitive match. Everybody was sticking, it was really good teams. Everybody had pretty even teams, and it was just a really competitive death match where people were playing smart. It was, the positioning was extremely important. Teams were really mobile, moving around. And then you kind of, we were feeling really good about the match. You kind of hit me up and you're like, you remember when every Battleground used to be this? And it was like,
that was just what Battlegrounds were.
It was like devastating to hear, but it was like so just a light bulb turned on in my brain. I was like, man, that is exactly what it used to be. Like every match used to be deathmatch only, competitive. Like all the builds were like focused on deathmatch. It was kind of sadness, but like a puzzle piece fitting into place at the same time.
Yeah, it really was a moment to like realize like, how far we've fallen and how much more fun it used to be when we could choose the mode that we wanted to for everybody, including people who don't particularly care for deathmatch. It was better for everybody. We've rehashed that, 10 zillion times. So I guess we don't have to do that all again. But I think that I am still hopeful for the future of the combat meta. For one, of course, we all know it's all cyclical. Nothing ever is going to stay the same forever. The very next update we get, I guarantee you, we're going to get some more balance adjustments, and the patch after that, and the patch after that, and it's just going to keep going. The kind of balance situation right now, to me, seems somewhat incomplete, and I think like the first quarter of this next year coming up, they always give us these sort of announcements of like a sort of a roadmap of what their plan is for the upcoming year for the combat system and all that. I think we're going to get some good news. I think we're going to hear some stuff about where they're wanting to take things that is going to lay my mind to rest, make me feel a little bit better about things. That's my expectation. Hopefully I'm not wrong about that. But we can always hang on to that. The fact that the meta is always changing, it's a frustrating thing at times, but it's also a source of hope in times like right now.
Absolutely. I mean, we've played this game for so long, and we're not going anywhere, even with the current. We're not crazy about it, but we're still sticking with it. Still love the game. We're still hopping on playing BGs, and I 100% am the same place with you. I actually am pretty excited about a lot of stuff in the upcoming year, about the potential. Like I'm saying it now, I'm going on record. I'm officially allowing myself to get my hopes up for next year. I'm there with you. Yeah. I think with some of the messaging, some of the things, some of the decisions, I feel I've got my hopes are up for next year. I feel like we've got good things coming. And even then, like
I have that same kind of feeling in my gut. Like this year is going to be a good one.
This is the one. This is the one. And so I feel really good. And we're still going to be hopping in BG. So the game's still a lot of fun. We're still loving the game. We'll just,
Mother of Dragon says, let's get a deathmatch weekend first before we get our hopes up.
It's bound to happen. It is bound to happen.
What if they skip it? What if we just get like another Capture the Relic weekend, like the next one or something?
What would have been really fun is if it would have been hilarious if it happened on this past weekend when Sam was out of town. Well, Uncle Sam was out of town for the deathmatch weekend.
I would have loved that.
Oh, that would have been good. That would have been good time.
Well, yeah, so as much as we are really not enjoying the current PvP meta, we do have high hopes for the future. I think 2023 is going to be our year. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let's talk a little bit about the status of Templars. Davius, you're a kind of a Templar main. It's ambiguous.
I'd say so. I got 3 of them. That counts, right? I got more of them than any other character.
I'm a Templar main in PvP at least. Templars have been through a lot lately. We've talked about them a lot.
They're going through some things right now. They're
going through some things, man.
They're dealing with some things.
So we got our latest nerf, the backlash nerf, right? That's the base ability of Power of the Light. And man, it indeed was nerfed. So
that's a nerf.
Last patch, it's a big old nerf. I was getting maybe like between 9,000 to 15,000 hits from Power of the Light last patch before they changed it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was like if I got like a fully charged Power of the Light, it would be kind of in that range there. Now I'm averaging about 2,000 to 3,000. My highest hit that I've seen so far is about 6,000 from Power of the Light. And that's my delayed burst attack. That's my big heavy hitting attack.
It's like a strong dot now. But it only dots once. Only one dot.
People are still using it, like Templars. I've been asking around to see if people are dropping it off their bars or not, and basically everyone's saying the same thing. Like, what else?
Yeah, what do you put in place of it? There's nothing else.
Yeah, I don't have another delayed burst ability to replace it with. It's still better than a dot, barely, but it is. So just going to keep using it, but it is a shame. It's it's a measly little 6k damage, in the best case scenario so far for me. And that's with my build being very, very offensively focused, almost 7,000 weapon damage.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely a big nerf there on top of, we've gotten all these other nerfs to jabs and burning light and all of that. Class identity basically now is just the beam. That's what Templars are now. It's the Jesus beam. Mother Dragons hates the beam. Yeah, we all hate the beam. I hate it for a few reasons. Of course, you see it a lot, and it can be it's a very strong ability. But I just hate that that's what Templars have been reduced to. It's just like this one ability. That's your class now.
Yeah, it's the whole thing. I actually, before this beam meta, I actually used to really like the beam and try to find ways to work it on the build. And now I want nothing to do with that skill. It is just, if you see a Templar, it's a Beamplar. That's kind of what it is, and that's, it's sad to see what the Templar has become.
Yeah, which that's not to say you can't have a great Templar that doesn't use the beam. And I talked a lot about my StamPlar on the last episode, and she's doing well. And she's using jabs, and there's not a beam in sight on that build, and she's doing fine. But that's it. She's doing fine. You know what I mean? She's not like doing amazing. So I've been thinking of reasons to play a Templar, like in Battlegrounds, and especially like thinking of like a pre-made Battleground squad where you're like really trying to make a really good squad. Mm-hmm. Why would I bring a Templar? What would be my reason? So like maybe I would want to make a Templar healer. Templars make pretty good healers, but they're not the best healers. That would probably be Wardens.
Yeah.
I could make my Templar as a brawler, and they make pretty good brawlers, but they're not the best brawlers. That'd probably be Dragon Knights. Mm-hmm. Templars make good ranged builds, but MagSorcs are probably better ranged builds still.
Yep.
It kind of all goes back to what we've been saying about Templars, which is they're really not the best at anything at all. What they're good at is kind of being pretty good at a bunch of things at the same time.
Yeah.
It's that Swiss Army knife kind of play style. So I think that would be your reason to bring a Templar, because you want a build that's pretty good at a bunch of things rather than a build that's extremely good at one thing.
Yeah.
Problem is with pre-mades, with like really high MMR, really sweaty kind of matches, there really isn't a place for like a generalist like that. You need the best of every role. You need the best healer. You need the best brawler, all of that stuff. So I think that's how Templars are kind of struggling in the meta right now. They're really, like, they can be really great. I mean, they can be totally viable, really good, really strong build. And especially in the solo queue, I mean, you'll have a blast with a Templar. But in the meta, like the most effective tools available, you're making the best possible squad you can. I don't think there's room for a Templar there.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is that, and I don't know how long ago it was, but it seems like it wasn't that long ago that entire description you just gave was the description for a Warden. The Swiss Army knife. They weren't the best healer. They weren't the best brawler. They weren't the best range, but they could do all three. And now it really seems like Warden's become this whole new thing, but Templar's kind of fallen into that slot of this Swiss Army knife kind of hybrid, but not the best at anything. That really used to be what the Warden was.
Yeah, that's how people used to describe Wardens, but yeah, I really do think that really is more of a Templar thing. And Wardens, in my mind, Warden is very much support heavy. Like that's the thing they're very good at is support.
Yeah.
And everybody can do everything, of course.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, I agree with you. Warden has become much more support focused.
Yeah.
That's well, and now in the new patch that you can Can make them hit pretty hard too.
And it's weird about Templars. You remember a time when Templar was the healing class, and now they're maybe like not even third or fourth best healer. Like Wardens, Necromancers, and maybe even Sorcs. I've seen some amazing Sorc healers out there.
Yeah. King Nar makes a good point too. Some of the Nightblades out there can do some pretty great heals as well.
They can. We've seen them. King Nar says Warden, Nightblade, Sorc. That's your top 3 support classes, King Nar. I feel like I'd put Necro up there. But point is, Templar's not up there. That's the interesting thing.
Yeah, way back in the day, you remember, like, it was like, if that's what the Templar class was the healers.
I mean, they were the only healing class,
you had to
way back when.
Yeah, you hopped into like a 4-group dungeon, and your healer wasn't a Templar, then people were dropping group.
Well, yeah, because like Nightblades didn't have Shrewd Offering back then. Like that was literally, like there was a much bigger divide between the classes back then. Anyway, let's see, where were we? So, other reasons you want to play a Templar. I mean, if you're not doing a pre-made, of course, they have a certain aesthetic. If you like that aesthetic,
yeah,
that's a reason. Jabs alone used to be reason enough, but really that's just the beam now. So the beam alone is reason enough for a lot of people. Okay. And honestly, that's totally valid reason.
Can we just talk about kind of the irony and how hilarious it is that they did this nerf to jabs, and essentially what they said is that all Templars use jabs. We got to make this change. All Templars are using jabs. We don't want all Templars to use one skill. So we're nerfing these jabs. And what they did is they just made beam the new jabs. That's the only change that has happened. Instead of all the Templars using jabs, now all the Templars mainly use beams.
Pretty much. Another very, very good reason to play Templar, probably maybe one of the biggest reasons, is that they're very easy to play. It's a very beginner-friendly class, maybe the most beginner-friendly class. And it's very easy to make a build. They don't really rely on any weird, difficult to obtain sets or anything like that. You can get on a Templar, put together a decent build right away, and there's no complicated play style to learn. Everything's very straightforward, and you can get good results right away. So those are all good reasons to play a Templar. They're not the best at anything, but they're pretty good at a bunch of things. So Templars are not in terrible shape, but yeah, they're just not. There's not a real place for them in pre-mades. Is kind of the bottom line there. So it's only a matter of time, like we were just saying. Everything's always shifting. It's always going in cycles. Nothing ever stands still with this meta. It's always a moving target.
Yep.
And that's like a feature of the game, So you should always just be expecting that. It's only a matter of time before Templar gets some buffs. What buffs will those be? We don't know, but what we do know is that Davius Starjumper has a secret admirer on the development team. We all know it. It's plain as day to anyone with eyes. They're listening to the show. They're always buffing Davius's builds. We've all seen it.
Fellow Nord on that developer team.
So Davius was kind enough to write up a Templar buff wish list. I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, no.
Davius,
not at all.
This is Davius's Templar buff wish list. So if you want to give Davius some buffs, here's your opportunity.
This is my buff wish list. But if you could, let's just let's have you read back my wish list to me. Let's have you explain what that wish list is.
That's a great idea. I was going to suggest the same thing. All right, so wish number 1. This is kind of like getting into the season for making like holiday wishes. It's like we're making wishes for Christmas presents.
There we go. We're right in season. Look at us.
Wish number 1: put 4 seconds of snare immunity on the cleansing ritual ability, either the base ability or one of the morphs.
That's very specific by me, but yeah.
Yeah, you wrote all that right there.
That's what I said. That's how I think I told you that. That's how I 4 seconds of the snare.
I think that's just an amazing idea. Personally, I think that's one of the best ideas.
We've talked about how much you love this wish list of mine as well. Like you're a big fan.
Oh, extremely good. But I would really like that. In the past, I have relied on the cleansing ritual as my snare removal tool, and it's always been good enough. But we've gotten to a point now where CC is just so overwhelming that it's not enough, and I actually have to dedicate bar space to actual snare removal. It'd be nice if that could just be added to Cleansing Ritual so I can go back to relying on that for that and free up a little bar space. That'd be a nice little, or Davis, that's what you think, right? It would be a nice little buff to
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Snare immunity and Cleansing Ritual.
That's kind of what I'm gleaning from what you're saying there. Dr. Professor says, "Sup, nerds? Thanks for joining us, man. Good to see you, Dr. Professor." All right, next on Davius's Templar buff wish list. Put Major Evasion on Solar Barrage. Wow, that's just mind blown on that. You one,
like
Davius.
That? Huh? You like that?
That's maybe the best idea I've heard all year long.
Wow. I didn't know how good of an idea it was until I just, thought about it in this moment.
Solar Barrage is that ability that you cast on yourself, and it makes like this AoE pulse of damage emanate from around your character. And it also gives you Empower. And remember that Empower does not function in PvP anymore, right?
And they need to do something to make up for the change to Empower and what that did to Templars. They seem to be very entwined with that ability.
Yeah, they benefited from it quite a bit, and now that's basically half of this ability's value. So now that's just missing. Just half this ability was deleted from a PvP build. So it'd be nice to add something extra to that to make up for that. Major Evasion would make really good sense on this ability. It's like the type of ability you would imagine Major Evasion would be on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great idea, Davius. Another one. That's 2 for 2.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Amazing.
Davis's Templar buff wish list.
Yep. So next idea is the Empowering Sweep Ultimate. Nothing specific on this, but just do something with it. You may not be aware, but the Crescent Sweep Ultimate, right? There's another morph. It does have another morph. No one uses it because why would you? Because Crescent Sweep is literally 60% better.
Yep. In the tooltip.
Yeah, it's literally in the tooltip. So something needs to happen with Empowering Sweep. There literally is not a reason for a MagPlar or a StamPlar or any kind of Templar to use it over the other morph. Maybe they can increase that pulse damage or give it some sort of defensive buff. So it's like, you have damage versus defense, some kind of choice like that. But there needs to be some reason to choose that morph.
Yeah, that's a really good point. By me. This is an ultimate ability. Like, this is a class ultimate ability. Like, this should have some uniqueness to it. Like, this there's a lot of opportunity for creativity here, and so it would be really cool to see. That's a. There's a lot of opportunity for uniqueness there. That definitely needs a look, which is why I have it on my list.
Yeah, it wouldn't take much. Just, we don't have the specific idea, but just take a look at that ability there, guys. You're the ones that get paid. You can figure it out.
Yep.
Same thing with the Healing Ritual ability. I don't know, or Davis, you don't know, neither do I. What needs to happen to this ability? That's the AoE burst heal ability, basically, is what it is. Yeah. Templars don't really use it. It just needs to be turned into something different, like reimagined.
I honestly just think it could be dropped as a heal ability and just. I guess it could still be a support ability, but it's just a whole opportunity for a new ability. I don't know of anybody that uses this ability.
Yeah, I think that's that's like an opportunity to get creative, make a new animation, make it a whole new thing. Like, I'm sure there are a handful of Templars out there that have it slotted, but they'll get over it. I think that needs a rework of some kind. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think, you could just straight up throw the existing version in the trash and replace it with something totally different. And that'd be probably an improvement. Great idea, Davius. Yeah, another good one.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Next on the wish list, put the major crit buff back on jabs instead of the major weapon and spell damage buff. I've had that same thought, Davius. Exactly. Like, it was a much more convenient bar setup back when Jabs gave you your crit buff. Now that it gives you your weapon and spell damage buff, I kind of have like these redundant buff sources on my bar setup. I kind of have to make extra space for buffs that I don't have now. It just makes for a more crowded, more awkward bar space. It was way better back when it gave you your major crit buff instead.
Yeah. I agree with what I thought on that.
Yeah, me too, Davis. So really, really good idea there. And last on the wish list, of course, any class who's asking for buffs is going to ask for more damage, right? Templars don't really need any extra damage added to their class. We just need to take some of the power away from the beam, just a little bit, and spread that around to the other abilities that we have had severely nerfed, right? We have
share that wealth.
Yeah, we have weaker jabs. We have a weaker burning light. We have a weaker backlash. Like, our whole offensive toolkit is like super duper weak, except the beam, and the beam is way too strong.
Yes.
So let's just take some power away from the beam, spread it around to these other abilities. Maybe just put it into backlash only, even would be fine. We don't have to allocate any additional power budget to the class at all. We just need to redistribute things a little bit, and we're going to be in great shape.
Yeah.
Or that's what you're saying, Davis. I agree.
That's what I'm about.
It'd also be nice if Power of the Light. It right now it grants minor breach, or it gives the target minor breach. It'd be nice if it gave the major breach as well. In addition to that, that's another wish, because like, that might seem extreme, but the Warden's Deep Fissure ability, that's their burst attack, and it does exactly that. It gives major and minor breach. So
yeah, it gives both, not even just one, right? It gives both.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go, Davius. That's a really amazing wish list for Templar buffs. I think if I were to make a list, it would be very similar.
You would agree with a lot of that list.
I think it would be a very similar list. Okay, so I hope you guys aren't tired of talking about Templars, because we have some more Templar talk coming up. I've been playing a lot with old Betsy, my stamina Templar. I talked about her quite a bit on the last episode. And I still just can't get enough of Betsy. Normally with most of my builds, I kind of cycle through my roster, and I'll kind of toy around with the build. I'll make adjustments. I'll get it refined. I'll get the build just where I like it. And then it gets to a certain point where it's like locked in. It has the Ket Sparrowhawk seal of approval. And then I move on to the next build, and start doing it all over again. So I kind of reached that point with Betsy where it's like, all right, Betsy's in good shape. I feel good about Betsy. Time to move on. And then I go to my character select screen, and it's just like, I still just want to play with Betsy. Actually, I look at all the rest of my 13 characters, and none of them just are appealing to me right now. I just want to keep this Betsy train running, and I'm not fighting it. Betsy's my main.
That's a StamPlar main at heart right there.
Yeah, and even though she's my main, I spend quite a bit of time away from her, right? Because I have all these other characters. So right now it's just what my heart wants, and I'm not fighting it at all. I'm just gonna go for as long as I can go.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels good. It's like returning home. It's like me and old Betsy. It's just like old times. Even though we've gotten all these nerfs, and I can definitely feel those nerfs, no question. But Betsy's still Betsy, and she's still the best, in my opinion. And all the things I talked about in the last episode, all of that holds true. How you can be this Swiss Army knife. The great strength of the Templar class is that, you can really handle any situation. If you build your build right, there really isn't anything that you're not prepared for, period, when it comes to PvP. So her build, it hasn't changed. It is Deadly Strikes as a double bar set, Wretched Vitality as a back bar set with a bow, Vadishran two-handed maul on the front bar, Gaze of Sithis Mythic Helm, and one-piece Magma Incarnate. It's 5 medium, 1 light, 1 heavy, 3 divines, 4 well-fitted, tri-stack glyphs on all 7 armor pieces. The jewelry is 3 swift with spell damage glyphs. Remember, even StamPlars need to stack spell damage instead of weapon damage. She's an orc. There's 7 points into health, just enough to get her up to 30k. Everything else is in stamina. Serpent Mundus, Sugar Skulls for the food, tri-stat potions. So that's basically the setup. I did get rid of the Living Dark bubble, and our buddy Uncle Sam reprimanded me for that. He scolded me and said Templars are not allowed to not slot the Living Dark bubble. It's an extremely good ability, almost too good not to slot. But I just got to have some more damage, and I feel like defensively, I'm unkillable, especially with that bubble. Betsy just does not die. Taking the bubble off, she's extremely survivable. Even so, I have to be a little bit more on my toes, a little bit more aware of things, but it's fine. It's no big deal.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised this didn't happen earlier. Just this is a very much a play style thing, and based on your play style, like when you play Betsy, you don't get hit. That's your play style, and so having that bubble on there to protect you when you do get hit. I can very much see that as you can find better utility elsewhere, it seems like. So I'm not surprised by that change at all.
Yeah, I can stay alive. I learned how to stay alive without the bubble, right? I played without it for the longest time. And so I would rather just have more damage instead of that extra layer of survivability. So I replaced Living Dark with Solar Barrage, the ability that we were just talking about that you, Davius, said would be nice to have a Major Evasion added to it.
I remember saying that.
Yeah. That's the ability that has replaced Living Dark, so it's just that AoE pulse of damage. It's actually not bad damage as it is right now. I think my tooltip is like 2,600 every 2 seconds. So stronger than most dots, and what's nice is you're not casting that on anybody, like it's on myself, so nobody can cleanse it off, and it can't be dodged either because it's AoE. So anyone who's nearby, they're getting hit with that thing, and it's actually not a bad amount of damage on top of your jabs, and also like if you hit them with the crescent sweep, that also has a AoE pulse of damage that continues on as well. So it all stacks up, and it's really not a bad amount of damage overall. I really feel like I do have that extra kind of bite that I was lacking when I had the bubble in its place. So that was a good change, a little bit more damage. Survivability is still totally fine. I mean, I have the Cleansing Circle, I have Vigor, I have Honor the Dead, and I have the Barrier Ultimate, and I have lots and lots and lots and lots of movement speed, so it's really not a problem. I'm also really glad for fashion reasons. That bubble covers your character up, and you can't see what your character looks like.
Time.
So getting
That's
rid of
big
that
time stuff right there.
Yeah, big motivation to get rid of it. That was really nice. Deadly Strikes does apply to Solar Barrage, by the way. It's damage over time, so Deadly Strikes counts towards that damage. Yep. So
important to note that you have a new Betsy's got a new look that she's rocking right now.
She's kind of has a refined look. It's honestly it's mostly the same. I've just kind of re-dyed some things. I changed a couple of actual pieces. But she looks a lot more refined now. She's a little more goth, I think.
She's getting into her twilight years,
Yeah. Do you ever have to like test your outfit out in a battleground? Like you got your look and like, all right, time to test this baby out.
Absolutely. I got a full 24-hour test. I got to test it in a battleground. I got to test it in different parts of East March. I've got to test it out, killing the giants, There's a whole test I got to go through before then I'll make my way back to the station and usually just change back, or if it's good enough it'll pass the tests.
I have to test the fashion in an actual PvP situation because sometimes you're there at the dye station and you're thinking it looks really cool, but then you get in there and you start playing and the vibe's off. And
this isn't right.
It's not right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got to test it out. What other changes did I make to Betsy? I remorphed Rally to forward momentum. That way I can have that snare removal. Totally mandatory right now. Her combo is really simple. You just make sure Solar Barrage is active, tag them with Power of the Light. It's still worth it, I guess. Hit them with the Crescent Sweep Ultimate, stun them with the Javelin, and then finish them off with jabs. Is the idea there. So there is no execute slotted. It would be nice to have an execute slotted, but I don't think I can make the bar space without giving up something that I feel like is essential to the build. And kind of like what I was talking about on the last episode, I really try not to worry too much about just having huge kill counts. I'm really trying to focus on the overall team effort, and as long as we're successful as a team, Betsy can be happy. And it's really interesting. Like we had some matches, Davius, like I had a death match, an actual real honest to goodness death match.
It was a real one.
Where I actually put this video on YouTube where it was Betsy was doing like the classic Betsy thing where she was kind of one global cooldown to the next was doing something different, right? She's jabbing this person, she's healing this person, she's running over here, you know, just like really in that Betsy zone, kind of juggling 10 different plates at once. And I think at the end of that match, she had like 7 kills, 1 death, something like that. Real kind of moderate sort of score. But our team won, and Betsy was like number 1 on the team, even though she didn't have the most kills or anything. So that was really cool. That was like perfect, like textbook Betsy. And then we had a match after that where you were actually with me on this match. You were playing on a healer, I think. And Betsy went like 20-0 that match, which is pretty unusual for her.
But just shows the capability that, you know, I was playing support, and so she kind of shifted gears to more offensive, and she can do that.
Yeah, exactly. Like I had made that comment that night, like, yeah, it wasn't really a typical Betsy match there. But you're like, well, it kind of is typical for Betsy because she adapted to the situation, right? She doesn't have to provide support because you have dedicated support. So you're just going full ham, full damage, and she has the tools for that. I'm like, you know what? You're right. You're telling me you're spitting facts about my build, dude. So yeah, it's cool how adaptable she can be and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm just trying to focus on that, and it's crazy. Like I've jumped back on with my StamSorc, who I get like 20-0, you know, most of the time. And you'd think that'd be like the most fun I could possibly have. I just want to go right back to Betsy. Like I'll play one match with him. I'm like, yeah, this is fun, but I just want to go back to Betsy. It's more fun to be like a team leader, you know, like you're better enabling the entire team. You're not like Tane's great, but he's totally selfish. Forget the team. The team's over there on the other side of the map. Team's over here. Just
who needs a team?
You know, yeah, don't need a team. But and that's its own kind of fun. I mean, absolutely. But man, I think there's hardly any more satisfying feeling than like knowing that you elevated the team, you know, like you were there contributing, making a difference, and you made everyone better. I really like that feeling a lot.
Absolutely.
So that's Betsy. Davis, what's going on with the never-ending Nord, your MagCro healer? I know you have some surprises up your sleeve.
Oh yeah, the never-ending Nord. This is my MagCro. So this was kind of my next character to kind of put an update on, kind of do an overhaul and get it to where it's a build that I can start playing. So the initial build, this is the one that I played with you, tested it out. The first and foremost, transitioned it to the Oakensole build. The new Davius stamp of approval there.
Of course.
But the build that I initially transitioned to was Oakensole, Ken Marcher's Cruelty, Winter's Respite, and then One Piece Trainee. And then the bar was Blockade of Frost, the Totem, Renewing Undeath, which is kind of that circle heal on the ground that the Necromancer has, Caltrops, and then the Mender for heals, and then I was using the Colossus as the ultimate. And here's what it came down to. It just wasn't wacky enough for me. You know, a Davius build needs some wackiness. It has a new build now. I like it. It's right up on the wackiness level. I've tested it out, very, very lightly tested it out. So, but I do feel it's clicked into place. It feels right now. And what the new build is, still an Oakensole build. I did keep Winter's Respite on there, and a throwback to an old Davius favorite here. 5-piece Cold Harbor's Favorite is the other set on this build now. And so it's kind of sounds like a joke, but I'm gonna get into here in a minute about how it actually kind of makes sense on this build. So, real simple. It's Oakensole, Winter's Respite, Cold Harbor's Favorite, and then One Piece Trainee. The bar's pretty much the same. It's Blockade of Frost, and then the Totem, the Renewing Undeath. I did make a change. I swapped out Caltrops for the Stamina version of the Blast Bones to get that Major Defile. And just a little bit more damage than Caltrops is, just to add a little bit more pressure. and then the Mender, and then the Colossus is still the ultimate. The armor's four pieces of heavy, 3 pieces of light, all divines. Jewelry's three infused pieces with spell damage, and then it's sugar skulls and tripods. So it's just more fun now. The build's just a lot more fun. There's so much stuff going on with this build now, with all the CC that a MagCro throwing on the ground, and the totem, and then throwing the renewing undeath, and if that takes a body, a body on the ground, then it gets like the extra skull proc, and so that's going on.
Did you remind us what that renewing undeath ability is? Did I miss that?
Yeah, it's essentially, it's the ability that it's just a necromancer kind of circle heal on the ground. But it is a pretty strong heal. Like for this particular build, it's like an
AoE burst heal, like an instant burst heal.
Yeah, instant burst heal. On this particular build, it's a 9k burst heal. And that's pretty much my spammable heal, and so it's pretty strong. It also removes 3 negative effects if it consumes a corpse, and then it also puts a 9k hot on the team for 5 seconds. So 9k over 5 seconds. And that's really the spammable heal. That's where the most of the heals are coming from. But there's just, with throwing that on the ground, with throwing the totem on the ground, your Mender's up, you're throwing the blockade of, the unstable wall of frost is happening. The winter's respite's popping, and then the Guar's popping up all over the place. There's a lot going on with the build now, which is, I'm all about it. I'm all about the chaos going on.
Yeah, you like a lot of visuals.
Yeah. But it actually, the reason it works really well is that this build has kind of become very, and most MagCros are this way. I think you would agree with this. They're very kind of control the area. They kind of choose to control the area. It kind of goes into that CC. And that's why I really liked the Cold Harbor's Favorite, because it kind of goes perfectly with that idea. So I'm throwing a totem on the ground, and then I'm throwing a heal on the ground. Well, then the Guar's going to proc, and it's going to be that heal over time. Proc of that. And you talk about throwing the renewing undeath, so that burst heal on the ground, combine that with the winter's respite that procs, and then the Guar heal procs. Anybody in that area is not dying. That is a whole bunch of heals, a whole bunch of hots going on the team in that area, and then the Mender's still going off there. That's a whole lot of heals going on, but at the same time, I throw a totem on an enemy, and I throw the wall of frost trying to slow him down on a group. Well, then the Guar is going to proc, and it's going to be a pretty strong dot on him. I think it's like a 14k dot over 16 or over. It's 14k over 6 seconds. So it's nothing crazy, but you're throwing, the totem on them, the frost. They're getting the fear happening. They're getting immobilized. They're getting minor maim. I'm throwing that stamina blast bones. They're getting major defile. And then that Guar procking with the blast bones, it's putting just enough pressure on them that I'm depending on my team that I'm supporting to kind of be able to take over that situation. And so I really like how the Cold Harbor's Favorite kind of fits into whatever I'm doing at the moment. If I'm going more support focused in the area and kind of creating kind of a support area, it will back me up with that. Or if I'm kind of going CC and offensive, it'll kind of back up the team with that as well. And so I just kind of liked how Cold Harbor's Favorite kind of goes along with the build, and that it's a very situational build playstyle. Most MagCros are. And that Cold Harbor's Favorite set really kind of backs up that situational, whatever's happening in that specific situation. That's how that set's going to react. And so I think it's working really well. I really like how I'm kind of getting 2 uses out of that set.
Good old Cold Harbor's Favorite. Is that the same set you crafted way back in the day?
It's actually crafted by one Ket Sparrowhawk. It's your original craft. This will show you how long I've had this thing in the bank. It was actually before I even had a crafter. Like, it's that long ago.
You just had it just sitting around that long, so it's all M-Pen. Probably, right?
Over time it's changed, but there's still a couple M-Pen pieces. But eventually, this set needs to be all divines. So if I ever get the transmute crystals, it will be all divines. That's the way to go now, just to get a little bit more sustain.
Amazing, it's stayed in your inventory this whole time. I would have deconned.
I've kept it around, man. I love that Cold Harbor's Favorite, and now I feel like it's really found a really good home. And we've talked about this. We were talking about this the other day. The MagCro support build is really probably the most, I don't know how to say it, the most non-existent in the stat sheets. I don't want to say thankless, because most people, when you have it on the team, are very thankful for it, but it just doesn't translate to good results when the match is over. Like, you don't see anything in the stat sheets.
It's good actual results, but it's just the scoreboard.
Well, exactly. It's you don't see anything on the scoreboard, but they're fantastic to have on the team, and they're really, there's no measurements for how good they are. The damage numbers are usually low, the healing numbers are usually pretty low. They're not going to have a lot of hit kills. They're usually probably going to be last on the team. They may go like 1, 2, and 2 or something like that, but everybody on that team is extremely thankful to have them on the team for the amount of positional, control they have, the amount of CC, the menders doing heals that don't actually count on the scoreboard. They can affect a team so much, and they make such a difference. And usually the team they're on is going to win. You're just not going to see it in the scoreboard.
Yeah, that's always how it is on my MagCro healer, Despair, who's my best support build that I have, and I talk about her all the time. Like, she straight carries teams, but it never appears on the scoreboard. You never see it, but you can tell when you're playing, when you're experiencing it. You can definitely feel it.
The perfect character for me to go to try to cure my stam or my Sorc addiction right now. This is like the opposite end of the spectrum. This is a good one to go to. And the fact that I found a home for the Cold Harbor's favorite just makes it all the better.
Yeah, great, man. Well, on the topic of healers, I've also been playing with my Magicka Warden healer, Aunt Lola, who's also a Oaken Soul single bar build. And I really like playing a single bar healer. I haven't tried an actual offensive Oaken Soul build yet. I probably will sometime soon, but playing a single bar healer is really fun because you really can just focus on your job. That's all you got to do, nothing else. Pretty fun. But Aunt Lola, she's here to prove that not all wardens are bad. That's kind of the theme of her build. She wants you to not hate wardens so much, please. Her build, she's a pure healer. Her build is 5 pieces Hedes Hearth, 5 pieces Rallying Cry, Oaken Soul Ring, and 1 piece Magma Incarnate. So a real kind of standard healer setup, really, other than the Oaken Soul. Her bar is Blessing of Restoration, Healing Springs, Budding Seeds, Shimmering Shield, the Deceptive Predator Flappy Wings, and the Healing Thicket Trees Ultimate. And I'm pretty set on that bar setup. I've been really happy with that. The Healing Springs and Budding Seeds, those are 2 ground AoE hots, and those are the strong kind of hots now, right? Like, all the sticky hots have been nerfed, and all the AoE hots have been buffed. So those 2 stacked on top of each other are actually really strong. Plus, Budding Seeds gives that big burst heal whenever it ends. And Healing Springs helps you with sustain. That's really nice as well. I went with Shimmering Shield instead of the Crystallized Slab. They're both really good. Crystallized Slab, so both of these abilities, that's the ice shield you put around yourself, and it absorbs projectiles. Shimmering Shield gives you major heroism, and the Crystallized Slab morph, it shoots like an ice ball back at your attacker, and it stuns them. So Crystallized Slab would be a really great choice. I don't have any crowd control otherwise, so I was very tempted to use that morph, but I ultimately decided to use Shimmering Shield, basically for roleplay reasons. Aunt Lola, she's a nature lover. She wants to do no harm. She's a goody. So she wants to only help people, only heal people. She doesn't want to be doing damage or stunning people or any of that kind of stuff. She's here to remind you that not all wardens are bad, okay?
There's also nothing wrong with that major and minor heroism. It's always with that Oaken Soul and Shimmering Shield. That's a nice, sweet little combo.
Yes, that is very, very nice. I always have the Tree's Ultimate ready to go all the time. and it's a really fun build to play. It's certainly not a meta build, but not every build has to be like the very best possible build out there, and there's definitely something to be said for a fun factor, and there's definitely like a role play element to this build. And that's not to say it's a bad build. It's very good. I mean, her healing numbers are outrageous. She's a very extremely powerful healer. She's very effective. But it's kind of what I've always said about this character. Her effectiveness kind of depends on what team she's on. If she is on a group of, if she's with like a three other competent players, then she's going to elevate them, and that team's going to be unstoppable, and we're going to be great. But like she's not like my MagCro, where it's like I'm just going to drag you kicking and screaming across the finish line. My MagCro can do that, even though she has way weaker heals. But it's all this other stuff she brings that we were just talking about. But if it's kind of flip-flopped, if I were to take my MagCro and put it on a really high MMR pre-made team, she would not elevate that team as much as the Warden does. So they both have their place. But anyway, I like the fact that she's just like very plain and simple. She's just a healer. She can do resto heavy attacks. That's the only damage she has. And there's just that one bar. I'm not worrying about casting any buffs or anything like that. I'm just kind of focused on my job, and that's all I'm doing. And it's even fun, like even when I get focused, and there's like a whole team just trying to like XV1 me down, all I can do is out heal it and line of sight. She has 3 swift and she has the flappy wings, so she's pretty mobile. But it's pretty fun to just see how long I can survive without, I'm not hurting anyone, I'm just over here minding my own business.
That's the old Davius way, the original Davius, no need to hurt anybody. Just throw those heals up.
Yeah, yep, your original MagPlar pure healer. I'm not quite as pure as, because on that build, even your light attacks heal people.
That is true.
So not quite as pure. Lola will get like 1 or 2 kills a match because she'll just accidentally get one from a heavy attack or something. But yeah, I think she's just a perfect example of like not every build has to be like the most super effective thing possible. Like there's a fun factor. It's effective enough, and on the right team, it's actually really, really good.
Yeah. I really like pairing Lola up with Lord of Nords. Just the ultimate, take all the hits brawler, and then just the ultimate, just crazy heals. Those are a fun pairing.
Yeah. She does really well if I have a brawler that has a lot of crowd control, like a DK with like talons and fossilize or something like that. Then she does extremely well in that kind of situation, because that's what she lacks, So anyway, that's all I have to say about Lola. I'm probably going to keep playing with her, so I'll probably have more to say about her in the future. All right, Davius, what's going on with Thane of Pain, the Sorc? How many poor souls have you murdered since the last time we've talked?
This is like what, three episodes in a row I've had to mention old Thane of Pain.
Probably
it's an addiction. I'll say it. The addiction's there. I think we can blame originally Uncle Sam for this.
Uncle Sam's the blame.
Yep. He put this thing into existence, and then everybody's kind of made their pieces of it. But just a quick reminder of the build. It is Oaken Soul build, 5-piece Kavash Gladiator, 5-piece Ward Maiden, and then 1-piece Magma Incarnate. Now, I am most likely going to make a change with the build. That I would say minor, but I'm actually going to drop Ward Maiden and put on Briarheart. Mainly nice. Just because that Ward Maiden, that loss of Ward Maiden, it is going to make my frags and curse be a little bit weaker. But overall, me and you have talked about this. I think it's going to be more damage. Fury is going to be stronger. My Vigor Heal is going to be stronger. The Overload is going to be stronger. And just my light attacks will be stronger. And so I think overall it's going to be better. And it is purely an execute build. So buffing those execute abilities, I think, is going to be better in the long run. So slight change coming to the build in the future. But I had to get creative with how I was going to get over the addiction of this build. You just get addicted to kills, just go rampaging. You get bloodlust in your eyes. I will say the addiction is spreading to the rest of the Scroll and Discord.
It's true. We've been getting a lot of screenshots in the Discord lately.
It's spreading throughout. It's the execute Sorc a plague right now. But I had to come up with this creative idea. So what I did is I actually gave myself a limit. It originally, I told you it was going to be 25. I actually lowered it to 20. So I gave myself a limit of 20 final matches. And I actually took screenshots and recorded them all, kept them all on one page, and said, all right, next 20 matches, I'm just going to record the stats, and then I'm putting this guy on the shelf. And then, as I said, I moved over to the MagCro, which is a great way to get off this addiction. MagCro's getting no kills. And this, just moving on from all the kills in matches. And it actually ended up being really fun. It was really cool to kind of keep track of every match. There was definitely some clunkers in there. Definitely some ones that didn't really go well. But overall, this build just, like all these execute Sorcs, it is just racking up the kills. But it was just kind of neat to keep track and see them from match to match and kind of see the differences of being on different teams or seeing different people in the match. Overall, the final numbers of the 20 matches is 276 kills and 48 deaths. So
very good. That ratio.
Pretty typical with the execute Sorc build ratio. And like I said, there was some good ones in there. There were some clunkers in there. But it was just kind of fun to just know, all right, these next 20 matches, I'm just keeping the stats and then going to move on. I actually had some fun with it. And it might be something I do with kind of upcoming builds because the other thing that kind of was nice about it is we play a lot of BGs. We do a lot of theory crafting with builds. And we kind of get a feel for how the builds are working or how they're going. But when I was actually keeping the stats of each match all on one spreadsheet, it was one of the better kind of just overlooking views I had of how the build was operating. And it actually ended up being pretty beneficial for me figuring out, having an idea of what teams this build's going to work on and what teams this build's not going to work on. If this build, it kind of gave me kind of a next level in depth of kind of figuring out how to work the build better. If this build's on a team that nobody on the team is, you don't have a brawler or a support, nobody on the team's going to be taking hits, and so they're going to be chasing. The enemies are going to be finding a way to chase you down and get hits on you. This build's going to struggle a little bit. It absolutely can't take hits, but if there's nobody on the team to take hits, then eventually they're going to run you down and hit you.
That's the thing. That's the thing about that build is you need that front line, at least one person up there.
You just need somebody up there distracting them while this build can get going. But if you don't have that and they're just coming right at you, no distractions and nobody in between you, this build's going to struggle. And that was usually the reason for the clunkers. But I just, kind of going back to it was just kind of a nice, good overview to kind of really review the performance of the build and just kind of look at it top to bottom, all, a good amount of matches, 20 matches, and just kind of see the overall results. And it was just ended up being kind of fun, and it might be something I do with other builds just to kind of see what the results look like.
Nice, dude. Is that it for Thane of Pain?
That's all I have to say. The addiction, he's on the shelf. I officially
saying goodbye for now. So what, do you have like a minimum amount of time that has to pass before you're allowed to play him again?
I think that, I'll still play him because it's still a really fun build. The addiction's not fully cured. But I think now the only time I would mainly pull him out now is if we're grouping up and there's just a need of, all right, we need somebody to play an execute build and everybody else has their other builds figured out. And I'm in, I need to be that kind of person on the team that gets the kills. I'll happily hop on this guy, but when it's cool
to have that on the roster. It's good to just have that ready to go.
And I think that's kind of really the nice thing about Thane of Pain is that he slots right into Lord of Nords. Lord of Nords, just like we were talking about, Lord of Nords is kind of that perfect brawler that slots into those team matches.
If you could put them on the same team somehow, that'd be great.
Well, it works out because, usually the people that we play with now, most people have this some sort of execute build. And so if they're playing theirs, I can grab Lord of Nords. But it's just, like you said, it's just nice to have a roster of, if we're putting a team together and we kind of want to have a good cohesive team, I've got, Lord of Nords. He's that perfect brawler. He will be up front. He will distract people. He's going to take all the attention. And so I have that piece if it's needed. But it's nice to have also this piece where it's like, okay, now I've got this piece that if I need to be the person that's going to get the team kills and finish a lot of kills, I have that piece as well. So that's kind of where
with other characters too.
Yep. Still working on the perfect, support for that. But, we'll see. We'll see. We're getting there.
In other news, the best in slot staff style has changed. It is now the Sisters Guardian.
This is big
style.
News. Big news.
Formerly the Night Hollow style, now the Sisters Guardian. If you're looking for the best possible, coolest looking staff style in the game, Sisters Guardian, or Sisters, S-Y-S-T-R-E-S, Sisters Guardian.
Sisters Guardian. Look it up. If you haven't seen it yet, look it up. It's the best looking staff in the game.
Best looking staff. It's so cool. It looks like a character from Star Wars would hold it and like shoot laser beams out at the end of it or something.
It looks like a very sci-fi looking spear. They finally made a staff that looks like a sci-fi spear. This is it.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
Okay, I think that's all that's been going on in the game. Emails and shout-outs. We got a few emails this week. First email comes from Bo from the UK. We read a big, long email from Bo in the last podcast. We kept calling him Bow.
Mm-hmm.
Bo wrote in to clarify that it's Bo, like the weapon.
It wouldn't be scrolling if we pronounced it right on the first try. That's the way it is. Okay, guys, we have a style and we're sticking to it.
I actually went with Bow on that last, when we were talking, I was like, I think I'm going to say Bow, but then, I'm going to say Bo, but then I ended up saying Bow the whole time. Bo also says, hi, Mum.
Nice.
In that email.
Mm-hmm.
So, if Bo's mum is listening, Bo says hello.
Shout out to Bo's mom.
Also got an email from Grizzly Con. Grizzly Con also says, hi, Mom.
Shout out Grizzly Con's mom. That's a new one.
Shout out Grizzly Mom.
Shout out Grizzly Mom.
Grizzly also wrote us another email to request a shout out again to Uncle Sam for the absolutely cracked MagSorc execute build. Grizzly got like a 44-1 kill count. He was posting some screenshots in the Discord. He said, I get it now.
The best part about this is just every time that this build gets more popular and popular and we talk about it, there's just a little, just a single tear that drips down Uncle Sam's face as his build is being exposed more and more to the ESO community. He kept it wrapped up for as long as he could.
Sam in the chat says, sad thing is you're right. Now, Grizzly, remember, with great power, you saw Spider-Man, right? You know the rest. But it is.
Before long, Grizzly, you'll be giving yourself a set limit, 20 matches.
It is true. But anyone listening, if you're just like tired of not getting kills and you just want to get a bajillion kills, make yourself a MagSorc and use the Kvatch Gladiator set, and it's just Curse Fury frags with the Overload ultimate. Pretty much that easy. That's basically the build. I mean, there's more to it. If you want more details, scrollingpodcast@gmail.com. I'll share my build with you, but that's basically it. Kvatch Gladiator is where it's at. It's an extremely good build for Battlegrounds specifically, where as a Sorc, your job is stealing kills for your team. That's what you're there for. Go for it. I mean, 44-1 is what Grizzly got on his. So. quick announcement. The next episode, 2 weeks from today, it's going to be Tuesday, November 22nd at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to have an extra special episode of the Scrollin' Podcast. It's going to be the BG Report. So we're going to talk all about the current state of Battlegrounds. It should be a very, very positive conversation, I'm sure.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
We're gonna rank all the classes from worst to best, and as far as their effectiveness in Battlegrounds and all that stuff. We're gonna have extra special guest Uncle Sam. They're with us. Always a good time having Sam there. Always some good insights and good times with Sam.
We'll really try to squeeze any new builds he's got out there that he doesn't want to share yet. We'll really try to squeeze those out for the cast next episode.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and give him 500k gold in advance. Sam's been known to sell his builds to people in game for gold. Anyway, yeah, so join us for the BG Report Tuesday, November 22nd at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time here in the Discord, scrollandpodcast@gmail.com. If you're not already a member of the Discord, send us an email and I'll send you an invite. And I'll be putting some reminders out in the Discord as well. If you're a member of that, then it won't sneak up on you. Any other announcements or anything else, Davius?
I don't think so. I think we've pretty much covered it. Get to singing that Song of Fire.
Yep, Song of Ice and Fire.
Mm-hmm.
We have a guild. The guild's name is Stoon's Goons, best named guild on the PCNA server. And the official guild of the Scrollin' Podcast. If you'd like to be a member, send us an email at scrollandpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll send you an invite. If your guild roster is full, that's okay. We can get you in the Discord, and anyone who's in the Discord is a fully fledged goon as far as we're concerned. So scrollandpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll get you in there. And I think that's it, right, Davius?
Oh, you know what? This is totally a random update, but I totally forgot about it. The Guild Hall officially, this is big time, we officially have 4 Mundus stones now. Mm-hmm.
Ooh, which ones are they? Do you remember?
The Stamina and Magicka Sustain, and then the Stamina and Magicka Damage.
Hey, that's the only ones you need.
There you go. Moving
nice.
up in the world, goons. We're moving up in the world.
That's actually awesome. I will remember that. Because those are literally the only 4 I use. Pretty much.
Look, we've hooked Kit. We've got Kit.
Hey, I already use the Guild Hall quite a bit. I use it just today. I reconstructed 2 things there.
Nice.
All right. Well, we're going to get out of here. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.